Good day, everybody. This is the Ecclesiarch here, and back to you with something that I'm sure a lot of you have been waiting for. This is the resurrection of FORGECAST, baby! And we are here with none other than BJ the Brave, as always, as well as a very special guest from none other than Mordor. So we got one of we got one of the ring wraiths with us today. So we got a Nazgul or Nazguleth, as you guys might know him from Warpforge. So boys, how you doing? BJ, how you been?
First of all, there's no guarantees from Mordor, right? It could be the is it Ram? Who's the Easterling one?
Camel, I believe.
That's it. Let's kick off by completely nerding out on Lord of the Rings lore.
Why not?
On our Warpforge podcast. Oh boy. But yeah, for those who don't know, Nazguleth has been playing the game a long time, just like we have, and someone we've been in contact with. And we thought, we always love getting new voices on the podcast, so we're glad to have you. So yeah, Nazguleth, do you want to introduce yourself? Just like tell us a little bit about kind of like your experience with Warpforge, how long you've been playing, favorite factions, and thoughts on the game so far.
Well, first off, hello guys, how are you doing? Second of all, thank you guys for having me today on the podcast. It's a pleasure to be here as like a listener day one of the cast. And to begin on my Warpforge experience, to be honest, I've been like a follower of the game since day one, ever since the game was announced.
Was that like early? Was that like early beta or something like alpha?
Yep.
Okay.
Pre-alpha. Basically, whenever the game was announced, I was immediately hooked in because I was a Legions. I was playing Legions previously, Horus Heresy Legions, and I immediately hooked on to Warpforge whenever it got announced. Because I'm more of a fan of the Warhammer 40,000 universe in general, and I was more into it in general, more than 30k. But I got through to CCGs from Horus Heresy Legions, and I got hooked onto it for several years. And whenever Warpforge got announced, I was super excited. I was super keen to get into it.
So you knew Ecclesiarch from? Were you familiar with Ecclesiarch from the HHL? Oh, okay.
Definitely, yeah. I'm also familiar with his previous name as well.
He knows where
Tiger
the
Woods
comes from.
Tiger Woods, right?
Oh my God!
I know the back lore,
He knows the golf lore, guys. He knows the golf incident.
Exactly.
You may have been turned from an ancient king into a Nazgul, but Ecclesiarch was once the king of golf. People are thinking, what the heck? People who have just joined the game in the last 2 months are like, what on earth are these guys drinking?
We might be high on Warpstone.
Exactly. So I began my Warpforge journey ever since like the demo fest for Steam got announced back in like, I don't know how long has it been? About like 1.5 years from now. Was it 2 years actually? I don't know. It's been such a long time actually.
It was like September. Early access was like October, wasn't it? 2023.
Yeah. But the Steam Demo Fest was way before that, I believe.
Right.
Where it only had the Ultramarines. It had only the Ultramarines and the Orcs only. It began only with those factions. And then started getting more and more expanded. Back then as well, the game was like having a lot of like work in progress content as well, like with the old voice acting and the sounds and animations.
So you've been in the game. You've been in the game longer than me. Then you've been from the very beginning. Have you kind of? What's been your approach? Have you been a kind of like free to play player? Have you bought some things? Like, what's the state of your collection now?
Well, currently I've adopted the free to play playthrough on the game.
Yeah.
I've been really resisting the attempt of like buying anything. I'm just pretty much dedicated my main account just to be a free to play mainly. And currently, the state of my collection is basically I have like almost everything unlocked, apart from like a few key cards and some factions. But mostly my collection is doing like pretty well, to be honest, on all side of things. And most of like the Forge's levels are like beyond 20.
Good to know then, isn't it? I mean, obviously you've been in it from the very beginning, but it does go to show if you like stick at the game and grind it out, playing free to play, you can still collect
Exactly.
stuff. It's just a bit slower, isn't it? That's all.
Man, you have no idea. Back then in Legions, man, the economy was so different.
I've heard it was
In
harder.
Warpforge, like, yeah, it was definitely a lot more grindier than in Warpforge. Well, I mean, Warpforge it's a lot more forgiving and it's a lot more faster to accumulate cards.
And Warforged, it was in HHL, it was trial by fire basically. So yeah, it was very difficult.
Exactly.
And what's been your favorite? What would you say is your favorite faction?
Well, currently my favorite faction is the Dark Angels, in my opinion.
Right.
Because they resembles one of my favorite old HHL factions, the Agents of the Sigillites, with their secret mechanic being similar to the Seals.
Ooh. Devastating mechanic.
And I also
man.
do. Exactly. Yeah. It's like, has been like very much power creep compared to like the Seals in HHL.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to be fair, Malkador did have some insane seals, but Dark Angels are doing a better job with it. So yeah.
Yep. They're a lot more consistent with generating them as well.
So are you mainly going down the kind of been playing like the Asmodai secret route?
Yeah, I've been playing mostly Asmodai currently, and I've also played a bunch of Belial, and as well I've tried Azrael a little bit, but my collection is currently not full. I'm missing like 2 key cards. Missing like the Deadly Hunters, and I'm also missing Lazarus, which is a painful card to miss, not gonna lie.
I mean, since he's nerfed, I don't run Lazarus.
He kind of dropped out.
Yeah. But the Deadly Hunters that's a key card.
That's a critical card. Yeah, that's a critical card, definitely.
Yeah, it's really good for the combat mechanic stuff. And of course, since we last spoke on the podcast, we've obviously had, as well as the Dark Angels, we got the GSC reinforcement. So this kind of, so we've kind of had both, haven't we, Ecclesiarch? We've had the Dark Angels and we've had the Gene Stealers. I mean, obviously, in terms of talking about, like, I want to get into really the Gene Stealers because that's the sort of big new news. But I suppose the Dark Angels, I mean, obviously they had a massive impact on the game, didn't they? Because initially the Azrael teleport deck was like immediately tier 1 and just a bit busted. And I think the nerfs have, I don't know what you guys think, but I feel like the nerfs have really tempered the Azrael down. Actually, I think those Lazarus and the Terminator losing the point of health makes it just a little bit more digestible, a bit easier for most things to trade. And then I think the 6-drop guy, the Strike Master, not giving the buffs to the Lord is massive. Actually, I think that's really curtailed the power, and so it feels like the only like major power spike in the deck is when the 9-drop comes down. Which, if it's coming down at 9 energy or more, I mean, fair enough. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not.
Yeah.
It's not like breaking the game early or anything. So, what do you guys think?
I think I agree with you completely. I think the EG managed to hit the sweet spot with their nerfs. Because honestly speaking, I know that a lot of people hated Dark Angels, they're going crazy over it. But now I think they're in a pretty good spot because, I mean, I didn't like it too much either. I mean, I love the faction, don't get me wrong. I think it's one of the best factions they've made because, once again, just like the more recent factions that they've been releasing, Dark Angels have a lot of playable stuff, a lot of cool cards, a lot of options. All 3 Warlords are great. I love it. I just thought that like some of the Terminators were abusive as hell, and their nerfs did really, really well. I currently enjoy playing Azrael a lot because it doesn't seem like I'm just bashing the keyboard with my head, because I actually have to put some work in it, so it's pretty cool. I overall, I would say I really like the Dark Angels. They're a solid addition to the game. I loved them in Horus Heresy Legions, even though they were completely different. I'm not like the hugest Dark Angels fan in terms of lore, but what I do love about them is I love their helmets, their design, colors and stuff. So, you know, I always enjoy playing them. I really love the whole medieval knight thing they have going. So it's one of the factions I really wanted to see in game. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of, so then we have the Gene Stealer reinforcement drop, and I mean, I just recently dropped a tier list video on all of that. But what are your overall impressions, and which do you think are some of the like standout cards that you're kind of looking forward to playing with? Please, Jack, start with you.
Sure. So the thing that I'm really looking forward to playing is actually the vehicle. So I'll say some good things about the reinforcement first. What I really like is that it is supporting the vehicle gameplay archetype. Like, I'm not sure just how powerful it's going to be because I'll be honest, I haven't played at all during the past week, mostly because I've been reading Warhammer, I'll confess. But the thing was that and I was kind of burned out. But now, as soon as tomorrow this thing ends, I'm gonna start getting the raid cards. I have the wild cards and stuff ready for it, so I'm gonna be getting the stuff there, and I'm gonna be trying out a vehicle deck for sure because that's what I'm looking for. I really like when they support different types of gameplay. There are some cards that, however, I really dislike. For example, the 3 energy card that gives 2 barricades makes me want to vomit. But overall, this is what I think. As again, I'm saying I haven't played, so I cannot really say. But I don't know how to feel about the new Warlord. Maybe you guys can tell me, because you played more. But from my point of view, it's not the best design because it really knocks out one whole archetype out of the game. Because I can imagine playing control against that is nigh impossible, because basically it just doesn't let you play anything on the board. You play, you get a trap, you get a sabotage. You play, you get a sabotage. Then, you go to the late game, here's 2 more sabotages because of the 3 energy card. So the thing is, I don't know just how overpowered it is or not. I mean, I've played against it with aggro, and it went really well. The thing, however, is that I usually find decks and archetypes that knock other archetypes out of game completely to be very toxic. We've had a lot of experience with that in HHL. Sometimes there were warlords that would say, okay, now I'm in the game, so you might as well never play that again. Like, for example, Nazgul, if you know, imagine like suddenly if old Mortarion got very strong.
Oh
and,
my God.
and suddenly he says, okay, anybody who's playing aggro, say goodnight, because your warlord's never acting, because he was Jane Czar on steroids, basically. So yeah. So Nazgul, what about you? What do you think?
I mean, I believe their cards and their essential sabotage archetype is really hurting the control archetype. But I'll reiterate on the points that you guys have mentioned. I really like that they are currently supporting a new archetype within the Gene Stealers. Like, one of the major points of the Gene Stealer cult is that they are very strong and they're very very good at having a flexible card pool that can do multiple things and adapt to any sort of meta that's happening. That's been one of their most major beneficial factor for them, and that's what been keeping them, in meta and competitive play so far and so forth. But I mean, I do like the majority of the cards. However, I'm not really supportive of the idea of having more support for the sabotage archetype, since it can be very, very annoying, very toxic to play against.
It was already good, wasn't it? So that's
and
the thing.
Was already pretty annoying to deal with from the beginning, to be honest.
What are some of your favorite cards then that you're looking forward to playing more of, Nazgul?
I mean, I do like the Warlord. It's pretty well designed, to be fair. But one of my favorite cards from this raid is actually the 4 energy drop that stuns a random enemy and deals 1 damage to it, and reduces the cost of all vehicles in your hand. That's a very cool card design.
It is cool. Yeah. I agree. I'm really keen to test that more. You do need a vehicle deck for that. It's not like a card you can play outside of that, but in a vehicle archetype, it looks really cool. And I've actually built a vehicle deck I've been playing with without the new cards, but I did include that, and I liked it. It was really good. So yeah, it's a really nice, like, interesting kind of value cheat type of card, isn't it?
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. Also, what's cool about this little reinforcement drop? I didn't forget any of the mechanics. Like, gave every archetype a card that it supports an archetype, for example. Like We have the 1 energy drop, which delays the enemy further to allow you to combo. And we've got the card that the legendary one, which also supports the ambush archetype, which is pretty good. We've got also the card that draws you a card and stealth it, which is also very powerful for the ambush archetype. So yeah.
Yeah, that card's pretty nasty. I'm not gonna lie. The 1 energy.
Agreed.
Like,
Agreed.
something just tells me that is going to be very, very nasty, because as you remember again, Nazgul, we had the Tukulka engine in HHL, which
my
was
God,
basically
yeah.
the same card minus the stealth and 2 cost.
Yep.
And it was played in a lot of decks. So I'm
Every
afraid
deck,
of that
most
card.
majority.
Yeah,
Same.
Rogue Informant is so goddamn good. Like,
Yes.
think about, is it Inner Circle? What's the one drop in the Dark Angels that reduces?
Inner Circle.
Yeah.
Inner Circle, yeah.
So
Inner
you
Circle,
think about
yes.
that card, right? The card's good.
Mhm.
But what it does is it puts it on the top of your deck, so you can't benefit in the same turn that you play it.
Yep.
And Dark Angels, sometimes one of the weaknesses, sometimes they run out of cards. So sometimes you'd much rather have like a Rogue Informant where it puts the card in your hand, right? The fact that you can play this for 1 and just play it, like, forget the second half of the card that says, if it's a troop, give it stealth. Imagine you just play this, you look at 3 cards in your deck and go, oh, look, perfect ambush.
Yep.
A 1-E spell that makes one of my troops invulnerable. Oh, I'll just pick that, puts it straight in my hand, and now I play that on my unit. It cost me 2 energy in total to do that. Like, that is amazing. Like, digging for perfect ambush is absolutely amazing. Like, I would pay 1 energy for that every day of the week. Then you throw on top of it this idea that you can find. Let's go. We'll call that level 1. Now let's go level 2. I really need my Nexus. It's Nexus combo deck. Oh, look, I found Nexus. Oh, but Nexus has already got stealth. So, so what? You just found your key part of your combo stick. You paid 1 energy. You're happy. And then obviously level 3 is you're playing it on something like a Saboteur. You're getting an actual unit that doesn't have stealth, and then it benefits from stealth. This card, whichever way you look at it, is absolutely phenomenal, and it's going to open up so many lines of consistency for so many different decks.
100%.
I think the Warlord for me is really interesting, like really interesting, because I've played quite a bit this week with it, and I've been playing with a Sabotage build, and for a long time I couldn't decide which was better, Zanari or Safa. Now I've got some data from my own games, and what that's showing is that Safa's better. Right now, they're both good. Don't get me wrong; they're both good. In fact, right now they're both like Safa's tier 1 and Zanari's either tier 1 or tier 2. Right, so they're both really strong. But if you think practically about, like, ask yourself, what do you want to do in the first 3 to 4 turns? Right, so like on turn 3, you want to play either the Biophagus, right, or you want to play this new 3 drop that Ecclesiarch just talked about, which is the cut them off. Yeah, where you create 2 improvised barricades and you put them in the enemy hand and you draw a card. Well, if you're what the problem with Zanari might, like, if your opponent plays a drop, you might then want to use your hero power to kill the thing. And so what I found is that by the time you get to E6, you've kind of like compromised your curve in a sense, because you've almost like been forced to use this hero power because it's such a good ability. It sounds like counterintuitive, but it's just something I've realized is that and also on turn 1, what do you do turn 1? You just play it and attack face. Well, here's the thing: you don't want to be attacking face with Sabotage. It's a control combo deck. You want to be saving your life, which basically means a bit like Shadow Sun. If you're playing like a control Shadow Sun, it just basically is a useless power on turn 1. Whereas Safa, you can go, right, look at my hand. What do I need? Oh, I need another troop. Brilliant. I've now drawn one of my 3 drops for next turn. Or I'm looking for the stratagems, right? I'm looking for the cut them off or the 4 drop to make them more expensive. So I'm getting a bit in the weeds here, but I think what I'm saying is like when you get into the detail of actually playing them, like I think I prefer Safa in that. That said, if the counter to if say Sabotage becomes meta, which I think it is, to be honest,
it is.
If the answer becomes beatdown, if people try and beat it down with aggro, then actually Zanari is quite good, interesting, because Zanari's ability is very anti-aggro, right? If you want to play lots of small, early, cheap units, a 3 damage range snipe that then makes you pay 2 energy minimum to get rid of the result. I mean, that's a superb control and tempo, and you're not losing health. So
and take no damage in return. Sorry to cut you off. Take no damage.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think what we're saying is, I think it depends on what you're playing against. If it becomes a very fast-paced aggro meta, Zanari might end up proving to be slightly better. But just in the current meta of what I found and what I'm playing, I've found that Safa has been pretty good. But again, Safa can struggle a little bit against Sylar, because Sylar's like a really dominant aggro deck, things like that. So I don't know. It's super interesting, but
I think one of the things, BJ, there is, if we also need to consider how much did the lineup of what you're facing change because of Zanari. Because think of it this way: if I'm playing and I'm like, if I face a Zanari, I might as well forfeit because I play a token deck. Let's say something that I drop a lot of units, and she does that. Maybe I'm not gonna play that, right? I'm gonna play maybe something that doesn't do that. And technically speaking, what I found in the previous season was that when you played against Safa, one of the better ways of just destroying her was if you flooded the board well enough, she usually got stuck in trying to stop it, because Genestealers don't really get reliable AoE. So you could easily take her down suddenly because of that. But now the board flood doesn't really work because, okay, let's say I got turn 1, I'm playing Ultramarines, like I drop the Firstborn. Then Zanari kills the Firstborn, gives me a sabotage. So the next turn I have to get rid of the sabotage, and now initiative goes back to Zanari. If I drop another thing, she takes it out, and now I have 2 sabotages, right? So playing those, I've actually found that I've removed stuff like Firstborn from my decks because there's already a lot of things that just destroy it outright, right? So it's like one of the things. So I think by its own existence, Zanari has made Safa better, because a lot of things are fearing Zanari, and Safa is kind of abusing that. Same way of how if there's a lot of Jane Zar on the ladder, she's gonna kick out Gordrang completely, because Gordrang almost auto loses against her. So it's often like that kind of a switchy thingy over there.
Practically right, yeah.
But it does force some interesting interactions. Like your idea there with Firstborn, like I would say, well, what Warlord are we talking about? So, for example, if it's Varo or it's like Kalgar or Cassius even, don't play your Firstborn out turn 1, right? Like you should not be doing that, because obviously Zanari is just going to benefit massively from you doing that. Whereas if you deny playing the Firstborn, you've got the option to draw. To draw, so you're getting card draw, and what does he do? He actually either armors up and hits your face, which is actually against what he wants to do because he's reducing his health, or he's not getting any additional value. And obviously you then play your Firstborn when you're doing like a tactical insight play where you basically want to present multiple options and kind of force him to spend, because that's the other thing we haven't talked about, is like whenever I give Zanari a target that he can remove, I'm like, I want you to spend 2 energy on your hero power. Like, do you see what I mean? Like, there's a big 6-stopper you could play, but now you can't because you've just spent 2 energy on your hero power. So all of that type of play comes into it. It's actually a really fascinating Warlord to both play with and against. It's actually quite an interesting one because that constant threat, it really makes you think about like, oh, do I want to just put that out there to get removed?
It's that psychological warfare against your opponent, basically.
Exactly. And of course it makes things like stealth really good again, because it's like, oh, I can't remove it if I've got stealth.
Stealth best mechanic in the game, hands down.
You remember when stealth didn't get removed when you were attacking?
Oh my god, yeah.
Oh yeah. You could just keep attacking, somehow you were still hidden. Like, what was that? What was that?
I think they experimented with something and they just realized this was just not a good idea. So that's it. But that being said, I'll just say one thing. I think Zanari would have been an absolutely phenomenal Warlord if it had ambush synergy instead of sabotage synergy. I just my opinion on that.
Same.
Yeah, I think ambush is still going to struggle a little bit, if I'm honest. I think uprising is really. I'm really keen to test some uprising builds. I mean, I don't know about you guys. It's really funny. I was saying this the other day to someone, but I think GSC is just the best faction. Like, it's just the best. I mean, just being the
Agreed.
best designed. Like, the
Agreed.
design is unbelievable. I really could make 10 new decks tonight. Like, it's
flexibility.
so good.
Yeah, the flexibility is insane.
The flexibility is insane. And I think you could even do a good mixture where, you know, I think some ambush units would work really well in a sabotage
Agreed.
deck, and in a,
Yep.
you know, there's so much variety. Now we got the vehicle thing. It's going to be really interesting. And I think some of the new vehicles, some of the old vehicles, by the way, have been sitting there just waiting for a deck. Like the 7E vehicle, I think is really good. And now that you've got cards like what's the 3-drop legendary? The one that you put on your Warlord that just got changed. Living Icon.
Living Icon.
Yeah.
Yes.
So now that Living Icon's changed, where it reduces the cost of a unit in your hand. Well, if you're playing the 7E tank and the 8E tanks, like, you can start making those cheaper. You know, so there's some interesting mid-range ideas that you could do. It's just the design is phenomenal. There's so many little combos. I wasn't passionate about it because I'm not a big fan of I wasn't like really into the lore and like the faction side of it. But from a CCG perspective, as a card kit, as just a deck to play, they're just awesome. I think.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. Like lore-wise, I couldn't care less about them. I'll be honest, but yeah, it's a good fact. That's what we want to see. And honestly speaking, with the latest factions, it's been doing better and better. Because Astra Militarum had some pretty cool things. Now they need some support for sure. But in general, I mean, Astra Militarum was pretty good. Dark Angels were pretty good. And, you know, all that jazz. So, absolutely.
Definitely getting there, isn't it? What do we got? What do we think to the Jackal Scout, the 1-drop that basically rallies and makes you choose a card in your opponent's hand and make it cost 1 more? We think that's a good card.
Very interesting card, yeah.
It's disruption. It's pretty cool.
It's disruption, and also it's knowledge on your opponent. 3 cards in his hand. Might want to know what he's holding.
Yeah.
People tend to forget how valuable that is. Just as an example, since we already mentioned, when you played Malkador in HHL, his ability was a 0-cost ability. You would just press it, and it showed you 3 cards from the enemy's hand, and you should have guessed what he was going to play next turn. And if you guessed correctly, then it would add a seal, aka secret, into your deck. Now, it wasn't the secret part or seal part that was important, but the fact that you could see the enemy cards every single turn for 0 energy. That was the thing. You always knew what was coming. So, yeah, that was a big deal. Honestly. Speaking of which, you mentioned Sylar, and I have been enjoying Sylar a lot. I've been enjoying Chaos a lot, I'll be honest. I think that it hasn't fixed the chaos issue. I think the chaos issue is that it's just too linear. There's only 2 types of deck you can play on chaos, realistically. Either you play Black Crusade or you play aggro mid-range, right? That's the only 2 reliable chaos. I am happy to see that Sylar is also playable, because chaos currently, for the first time in history, is at the spot where 3 warlords are good. Galaron is good, Abaddon is good, and Sylar is good. All 3 are good. Harkin is still struggling, but 3 warlords good for chaos, that's a big deal. But yeah, we also need some more variety. We also need the armor to go on the Turbinator, and
No, you don't. I did. I don't know what game you're playing, but I'm telling you now, Sylar is tier 1.
Yeah.
Sylar is... The Sylar deck is... There's a very strong argument it's the best deck in the game right now. If it's not, it's right up there. Like, the win rates... My win rate is sitting at... What's my win rate sitting at? It's something ridiculous. I've got it here. I will be doing a breakdown at the end of the season with all the kind of main decks. But here we go. So Sylar. So this is just on ranked. This is not including bots. This is just, ranked players. Yeah. 41 games, 36 wins, 5 losses, 87.8%.
Yeah, there you go.
And that's like 3.3k or whatever. That's actually not a lot of games as well, 41. So I've climbed up to 3.3ks with just 41 games. That deck is absolutely phenomenal. It's really good. And Boogie's playing that deck exclusively this season. He's not trying to score with the other 3 factions. And he's up to
Oh, I think it got stuck.
Oh, yep,
It's the Alpha Legion again, guys. Sorry.
yep.
We're gonna. Oh my God! Did he get hijacked?
Oh no, Jinx stealer cults are sabotaging BJ's.
GST don't like that we said that Sylar is the best.
Yep.
Well, guys, in the meantime, until yeah, there he is. He's
BJ's
back.
back.
Was it me that went? Sorry, I missed that. What did I miss? Last 15 seconds.
We were trying to fight off the GSC from sabotaging your internet. So.
Yep.
Yeah, I was just saying, Buggy's climbed up to 4.2k with that deck. He did say that he's started to experience a few issues with some of the sabotage builds. But it's I don't know. It's difficult to say because when I look at my stats, when I play as Safa, I win. When I play as Salah, I win. Obviously, you need to play like 20 games with two good players with the meta decks to kind of work out which one's better.
Plus, there's still the issue of the fact that once the raid ends tomorrow, that's when I don't think there's still a fully meta deck settled with the new cards, so that's also gonna change some stuff.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. Sabotage is going to be tier 1 as well. I think Sylar, Sabotage,
100%.
and I actually think in this meta, Gordrang might be tier 1. Like Gordrang is a really good answer to Sabotage, like really good. And again, my Gordrang stats, I'm at 83.3% with Gordrang this season. So like he's fire at the minute. So we got a good meta. We're going to talk about the meta in part 2. But what else have you been playing, Ecclesia? You talked about you've been playing the Chaos. What else have you been playing?
I've been playing Chaos a lot, and apart from Chaos, I think I've decided that I would bring Eldar to 3K this season. I've been playing a lot of Jane Zar because I think Jane Zar is a hidden meta slayer at its own pace because she's good against Gene Stealers because she's aggro enough. She's good against Dark Angels because she can keep you from using your abilities, which is horrifying against all three of them. She's great against Gordrang, and she's great against other Eldar as well because she can out-aggro any of them. So I think she's a sleeper. I just think that people are maybe kind of tired of her because she's been abused enough already. So maybe people are just bored of her. I don't know. But surprisingly, you know who she's bad against? I played a lot of games, and I almost never won against Astra Militarum. Because because the Astra Militarum with their wide go wide strategy and then dropping the tanks, too much for Eldar. You just don't punch through that.
It's a bad matchup. It's really funny. We're going to end up with this rock scissors paper thing because, funnily enough, Jane Zar struggled a bit with Azrael, but Azrael's dropping out of the meta now. More people are moving to Asmodai, and actually, Eldar do better against Asmodai than they do against Azrael. Right. So she is quite well placed actually at the minute, and she's a counter to the counter. Like she beats Gordrang, she can beat. There's like all these counters going on, and then you think like Scarabs. Scarabs are like the most solid answer to Sabotage. They're like, oh, you just gave me another spell to play to make more Scarabs. Thank you. Like they're so good. I hate to say it. It's all right because it's just us three. No one's listening. But you know, like if the ladder is filled with Scarabs this week, I'm blaming that FORGECAST guy. But yeah, I mean, like it is really, really good, and also Scarabs are really good against Eldar. Like Eldar struggle like mad against Scarabs. So there's going to be this really interesting, like almost pick your poison. Like what meta do you want to go after? I think that's obviously we've also got a balanced patch probably coming in the next week, so we've got that to consider as well for next season.
Oh yeah, that's very important. That's very important to see the balanced patch because it actually happened really fast. Like the end of the season, it's gonna be very soon. I am hoping to see some more big changes. I am hoping to see some Tyranid changes. Honestly, maybe I think that is the only faction currently that is now one-dimensional. Everybody else received like some good stuff. I am going to be playing some Avalyn again because finally I think Sisters of Battle are at the point where you can play it and not have a feeling that you're abusing the hell out of the game. And guys, we're going to continue talking a little more about the metas and expectations with a big announcement as well, which is a huge announcement. I think your guys are going to be interested in that. But if you want to find that out, you're going to have to go over to BJ's channel for part 2. Peace.